Welcome, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about diagnosing file permission issues. Now, this is actually kind of a tough lesson to demonstrate hands-on some things we want to look at. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just create a simple VIM file, and we're going to talk about some key points. So I'm just going to name it permissions. And this will be available for download as part of the advanced study guide located underneath the required reading of the Red Hat course. So a few things that we need to think about. For example, if we cannot delete a file, does it have the sticky permission bit associated with it? Are we operating as the root user or as a local user on the system? Anytime we update the ACL on a file or directory, the mask changes. We can pass in an option that actually prevents it from updating the mask whenever we do a set FACL. Now, what's going to happen if the mask changes, then our permissions are going to change. Our maximum level of permissions could change. Other things to think about is when you add a group ACL onto a regular file or directory, when you modify regular group permissions, it doesn't apply to the ACL entry of the groups. So when you modify the group ownership using change mod or a set FACL just for the group owner, it's not going to change all of the subgroups associated with it if there are entries in those ACLs. Other things to think about is directories need to have execute permissions. However, if we're setting execute permissions recursively, either using a default ACL or even change mod, and we want to set recursive permissions on a directory, all subdirectories and all files, and leave execute on all directories, we'll want to pass it a $X. So for example, we're going to say, hey, let's go ahead and change mod. And we're going to say our group owner for everything inside of a directory is going to have read write and X for execute on everything in the temp directory. This will apply execute permissions to the directories underneath our temp directory, but not files, which is good security practice. The other side of that is in order to change into a directory or list directory contents, execute permissions are required. The CP command does not preserve ACL rules. However, the MV command does preserve ACL rules. So these are just a few things that we need to think about in terms of permission. For example, if we're inside of a group-owned directory, in that directory, you want all new files and directories to be created with the same owner as the group owner of the parent directory, you can use the set GID bit, which we have an entire lesson on. Default ACL permissions are for inheritance, which means all subdirectories and files created within the parent directory that has a default ACL permissions inherit the ACL permissions of the parent directory. We have learned about all of this throughout our various lessons. I would encourage you to just remember some things to look at when it comes to diagnosing issues as it relates to file system permissions. Does something have the proper permissions? Is the proper group ownership? If not, does it need an ACL? Is the proper UMask set for creating new files? Do you need to edit the Etsy bash and profile to enable UMask persistence? So that concludes it for this lesson. Go ahead and complete this lesson.